What's up, freak bitches, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thank you for giving me just a couple of minutes of your time. Look, we all got kind of wrapped up with developing opinions about a couple of things that have happened in the NFL over the course of the last week and a half. One of those was the big fight between Myles Garrett and Mason Rudolph that happened a week and a half ago or so at the football game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. The other thing that went down that was pretty big news in the NFL in the last week was Colin Kaepernick got a tryout in front of a bunch of teams that he basically turned into his own fucking PR stunt. Now, in and of itself, those are just things that happened. I don't really have any opinion about either one of them either way. I did a video about the whole fight at the football game a week or so ago, and my opinions on that are up there. I didn't really say anything about the Kaepernick thing because I just haven't had time to make a video, but I've got my opinion about that as well. I'll go into that in a second, but the primary focus of this video is just how wrong the guy on your screen has actually been with his opinions on First Take the last couple of weeks about this shit. I have never seen somebody take this whole I'm so sorry for being white thing to such a different level. You can have an opinion, that's fine, but do you have to blame yourself and your race for shit that they didn't even do, that they haven't done since slavery? It's just silly to me. Let's go over a couple of things and why I think Max Kellerman is kind of an idiot. Let's listen to some of his take on the football fight. This was from November 15th. Here's some audio of what he said.
What went down on the field?
Well, obviously there needs to be a suspension because Mason Rudolph needs to be suspended at least a game. Let's start with that. He was the one who started the fight, tried to take Myles Garrett's helmet off. I mean, he got underneath, tried to twist it off. Then Garrett's like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. Okay, I'm going to take your helmet off. Then as Myles Garrett's being restrained by two of Mason Rudolph's teammates, Mason Rudolph, without his helmet, charges Myles Garrett. So Myles Garrett, as he said, foolishly swung with his helmet. By the way, it's in the rules. You know what happens if you swing with your helmet? Article 17 uses helmet as a weapon. A player may not use a helmet that is no longer worn by anyone as a weapon to strike, swing, or throw at an opponent. So what's the penalty for that, right? It's already in the rules. Illegal use of helmet as a weapon, loss of 15 yards, and automatic disqualification. So 15 yards, and Myles Garrett should be disqualified from the game. And I would also say, when you look at swinging at a guy's head with, unprotected head with a helmet, a 2 to a 4 game penalty, I would understand. There has been a totally hysterical reaction to this. And I think part of it's because the culture of,
Let me tell you where he's wildly wrong in all this. He's trying to apologize for Myles Garrett's reaction and actions without saying, hey guys, let's just let him go. Can't we all just say that it was a big fight between... No. He's trying to apologize for Myles Garrett's actions without coming right out and saying, hey guys, we shouldn't blame him for what he did. He's trying to make this excuse like Mason Rudolph started it, so maybe he should get in trouble too, yada, yada, yada. Well, he says it when he cites this rule, he says something very important. That when you take off a helmet and use it as a weapon, as Myles Garrett did, video evidence suggests that from about 25 different camera angles, that the penalty is 15 yards and an automatic ejection from the game. So what he's saying is that Mason Rudolph did it first. Well, he may have tried. I'll give you that much there, Max, but he didn't. You're trying to say that because Mason Rudolph started the fight, that Myles Garrett should assume absolutely no responsibility for his act. That's just plain stupid. You also have to take into account that he has a history of this shit. He's had 2 or 3 different occasions this season alone where he's done some pretty shady shit. And they also take that kind of thing into account when they hand out suspensions. I don't think that Max Kellerman's really kind of giving the whole picture. I think he's trying to do what a lot of people do in arguments, and I'm guilty of this as well, is he's trying to pull out the couple of facts that strengthen his argument and give you those and tell you those are the only ones that matter.
Something like that in a football suspension, but people talking about Myles Garrett rest of the season, kick him out of the league, send him to jail. Calm down. In a fight, if one person escalates and the other person retaliates, even if the retaliation is considered disproportional, we don't just look at the disproportional retaliation. Mason Rudolph was at the end of a game in which he stunk, 4 interceptions. The other team's about to win. The defensive end's on top of him. He's clearly frustrated. He tries to pull the helmet off. He gets retaliated in kind. While the other guy's being restrained, he charges them, and he gets swung at. Myles Garrett's right. It's foolish. You shouldn't have swung with the helmet. Everyone calm down. Myles Garrett, 2. You want to argue 4 games? Fine. Mason Rudolph, at least a game. Done.
Okay, well, here's where I'm going to agree with him. I do think Mason Rudolph does deserve some kind of a suspension, some kind of a punishment. He was a part of the fight. He did initiate it. He did, and there's, again, video evidence from a bunch of different angles to confirm that he actually was a big part of that whole brawl. So he absolutely should come under some scrutiny and get some punishment for this. But when Max Kellerman tries to go on camera, especially against somebody like Stephen A. Smith, who was a master at making his point, and I'll admit, I don't agree with Stephen A. Smith on a lot of stuff. I think he brings race into things far too many times. But on this and the other topic we're going to discuss in this particular show, I think he's dead. I think he's dead right. I think he is absolutely right. But, you know, Max Kellerman wants to be apologetic for the white race. Go ahead, buddy. I don't really think that any white people need you to be apologetic for them, but had fun with it. The other thing Maxie Pad got in a twist about was the Colin Kaepernick workout. No, I'm not going to go into my thoughts on Kaepernick's workout. I really don't care. He got one. I'm glad he got one. I'm sure there's probably a couple teams in the NFL that could probably use him, but my opinion is you can't force someone to sign someone that for whatever reasons, be they football reasons or PR reasons, they don't want to sign. But that's a whole other argument. My focus on this is Max Kellerman's reaction and how he once again is blaming the slave mentality of the NFL. And even at one point, I don't know if it was in this particular edition of the show that I had watched, or maybe it was another clip, he even refers to his white privilege now he has no right to complain or something like that. It's typical liberal bullshit. Let's give a listen to this real quick and I'll give you my opinion on it.
Some new information has come out, which I think leads any reasonable person to the same conclusion, all reasonable people to the same conclusion. The first piece of information is now what I told you yesterday has been confirmed by independent sources. It was not a standard waiver. That was in dispute. The NFL disputed it. It was not the same waiver that normally is signed. It's a waiver with language that was more vague and could be interpreted in such a way as Kaepernick is forfeiting rights, which he'd be doing on the altar of a look-see from the team, right? That's one. And the second one is Kaepernick's people are saying, we were given a heads up by none of the teams. Right? Like, it's not even like one team, hey, this is going to happen. We were blindsided by the NFL, like, hey, this is happening right now. It is their conclusion, therefore, that this is not coming from any of the teams, as has been reported, but is in fact coming from the NFL, this workout. So if you believe that, then you put those two pieces of new information together, and you're led inevitably to the conclusion that this whole thing was a way for the NFL to smuggle in, Trojan horse style, a waiver that Kaepernick would sign, signing away his rights. Recall, I couldn't figure out why this was done this way. Why so mysteriously? Why did it have to be on a Saturday? Why couldn't the date move? Why did he have almost no time to respond? Was it an ultimatum? Why couldn't he have his own camera people there? The whole thing, right? Why didn't they provide a list of personnel when they agreed that they would? Suddenly they won't. All these questions. Why all of a sudden? I couldn't figure it out. Also, the Kaepernick issue was largely dead.
Well, there's a whole lot to unpack there. First off, the language is going to have to be different for a waiver of the Kaepernick because he's already got a history of being litigious against the league. You can't blame the league for wanting to cover their own ass. I mean, that just makes sense. As far as not being able to have your own receivers, have your own camera people, who really gives a shit about that? And if you want to complain about the timing of it, why was it held on a Saturday? Who gives a shit? If you want to hold it on a fucking Friday on the goddamn moon, if Colin Kaepernick wants back in the league that fucking bad, then he needs to go out to this damn workout and he needs to show out. Who cares if it's to his receivers? Who cares if it's where he wants it to be? Who cares if his particular camera crew from Nike is there? You're going to have people from the teams at this workout anyway. Who gives a flying fuck if it's on video at all? If the team representatives want to record it so they can take this back to their owners and say, here's some video so you can see what I'm talking about as to why we should or shouldn't maybe sign Kaepernick, then fine. I don't understand why Max Kellerman is getting pissy here. He says, like I said, he says at some point in one of these cuts from First Take about his white privilege and shit like that. He's trying to blame white people because Colin Kaepernick made an ass out of himself and ruined his own fucking career. Max, stop. You're an idiot. You need to go back to boxing. I loved you on boxing commentary. But since you decided to branch out from that and go get into more in-depth punditry on ESPN, you've done nothing but make yourself look like an ass when it comes to things like this. Stick to talking about sports. That's what you know. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about this. You can feel free to go down in the comments and let me know what you think.